So much of this marketing is IRL, in person, small, curated. And transparently, I just think we're like, I just am better at marketing than I was because it was my second startup. So I just treated it like a real discipline and really designed marketing like how you would design a product. Like I think marketing and product are very similar in terms of the work and skill involved. And like a marketing campaign, a dinner, they are products too. And you design them and you iterate and you can kind of optimize for a kind of customer fit. But to treat marketing at the same level as product, that's like the biggest thing. Like it is as important as product is. Like the logo, the brand, the tote, the dinner, like every piece is a little product. It's just not software product.
Welcome to Taste and Tactics, where founders and go-to-market leaders share how they brought their boldest ideas to life. From concept to execution, we cover every step behind these iconic launches. Join me each week for both inspiration and actionable tips. I'm Shriya Nevatia. Let's dive in. Okay. Hey, Kirk. Thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to have you here on Taste and Tactics.
Excited to be here. Excited to be here before you blow up. So you still have me in the early days.
Yeah, we're super excited to dive in today. This is going to be a really fun conversation about how you did unique and super effective marketing strategy for your current startup. Start with a little more about yourself and previous startup and this startup.
So, founder of Scout, we're a recruiting co-pilot for early stage startups. We help founding managers automate screening and sourcing for engineers. Previously, my background's in product, Hightower VTS, Microsoft, both in big tech and little tech. So, been a designer engineer, studied computer science at University of Waterloo, and I'm Canadian.
Awesome.
Yeah, currently live in New York.
Classic Waterloo Canadian engineer. How'd you get out of it?
Most of the technical people I meet in New York are Canadian.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys have taken over.
Yeah.
So how do you position Scout in the market? Like, who is your customer? Tell us more about the product and how it works before we get into like exactly your marketing.
We said to seed Series A startups, we help them find engineers, first set of 10 engineers. We position ourselves relative to them doing the outbound themselves or hiring a recruiter. Effectively, we use automated tools to do it faster and better, really to generate really high quality outbound campaigns. We fundamentally believe outbound is the future of recruiting, not inbound. Things have just become too noisy in terms of online applying to jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily sell to companies that are 50 or less and kind of before they have HR ahead of recruiting. So we ideally want to take the founder's engineering taste and scale it effectively. Yeah.
Awesome. And it's fully focused on technical talent.
Technical, engineering, product, and a little bit of design, but all technical, no good amount.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about like how you came up with this. So you did have a startup before this. How did the idea evolve into Scout?
Yeah. Merit was a mentorship platform, and 95% of the mentorship sessions were about finding a job and specifically finding good candidates or good hiring managers to work from. So ultimately, we pulled it out of that. And more transparently, I've been a hiring manager before, and the biggest pain point is wasting time in the top of funnel, wasting time with candidates you're not a good fit. And within 5 minutes, you kind of know that you're not going to be a good fit, and you have to kind of power through that interview. So it's really wasted time at the top of the funnel. And it's really realizing that people delegate recruiting to recruiters, technical recruiting, and they're mostly non-technical. So it's really hard for them to find technical people. So it's kind of like a lossy process or a very time computer intensive process. So can there be a tool that takes your taste and scales it and does it more efficiently than a recruiter or HR? So that's kind of been our positioning, which is like, what's a post-recruiter world of recruiting? So it's a very artful pitch to make, I'll be honest, right? But I think it's resonating in the market.
Okay, not to spill the secret sauce, but how do you get these top engineering candidates who are flooded with other opportunities to respond?
We build tools that let them stand out and make them more eligible, and we effectively match them with interviews and hiring managers where we don't waste their time. So we prep candidates kind of on both sides. And ultimately, like, inbound just doesn't work anymore in this AI first world. People don't really have a lot of hope when you apply directly to a job on LinkedIn that someone's going to look at it. So people need intros. And you can think of us as like facilitating good intros on both sides. And you're not dependent on your network. You're dependent on the Scout network. So it's very much still a network like how Merit was, but it's very focused on recruiting and intro.
Totally. Okay, so you have this nice little line that you've made $500K in revenue in 6 months.
Yeah.
Congrats. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
So let's talk about how. So like, what is the primary
technique you used?
So we use customer referrals, thank God. People like our product and refer it to their founder friends as well. But it's also a lot of event marketing, specifically curated, well thought out founder dinners in New York and San Francisco. And we pitch it like a VC dinner without the VC, which is to say a really high quality dinner, but you don't have to soft sell or hard sell or like pitch people on your company. You just create this community around meeting and finding other founders. And we found that to be incredibly valuable to do that IRL. Founders want to meet other founders, but it's also very lonely. It's a very hard job. You're kind of locked into your work, right? So just an excuse to leave the office, the Zoom call to go meet other founders was huge. And like it honestly resonated and worked very quickly, specifically in New York and San Francisco. But yeah, it's going to sound so dumb, but it's like a place to hang, a place to meet founders. Like it's hard to build that authentically.
I don't think it's dumb. I mean, you're
Yeah,
speaking
yeah.
my language. I love
Yeah.
events. I love community.
And
But that said,
selfishly, like building
yeah.
a dinner that I would want to go to as a founder as well, too, right?
Totally. But we all there's some segments and categories where there's too many events, and then there's others where there aren't really any,
Aren't
and you're
enough,
feeling
yeah,
really
yeah.
isolated. Yeah. So how did you figure out that this was the right thing for your ICP?
I think it's something we wanted to do. We wanted to meet our users where they were. And I think we noticed that people immediately gave us feedback more on the vibe and the implementation of the event, how it felt so friendly, so authentic. You could complain about stuff. You could complain about investors, about customers, about employees, and like not in a mean way, but in a safe space way. So I feel like just the first dinner, people really liked it. I don't know how much of it is just our team and our kind of personalities, but also just the people we curate, right? I think it's like a network effect of people recommend other people that would have a good time at the dinner, right? So it's kind of like transitive property.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about all of the little pieces of it, because you do a really good job of vibe curation by getting all these little pieces together. So tell us about the hospitality, thoughtfulness, all those details.
Okay. Super funny. Picking good restaurants, family style restaurants. We pick almost exclusively Asian we pick very specific restaurants. It does not have to be fancy, just has to be tasty. A fixed price menu, like arranging the seating so people are next to people that they like to talk to, giving people merch, giving people stickers, giving people tote bags. It's all these small details that show consideration. Handwriting out name place tags, right? Like introducing everyone. It's a lot of event management is more hospitality than it is marketing. So it's really thinking through all the details, obviously paying for the dinner, right? Like connecting everyone after it. All these little details add up and create a feeling that, oh, this was considered for me. This is by founders, for founders. And I do think the vibe of not feeling like it's a hard sales dinner is huge. It's really, really huge. And I think that's a big thing that people can just kind of lower it down a little bit, chill out, complain, make jokes. It is a big thing. You don't have to be on as a founder, if that makes sense. Yeah. It is very much like you go there and you really like it and you want to come back to it. And we see that in repeat guests.
Is this all founders and CTOs, or is it a mix of candidates, basically supply and demand?
All founders. So we did peer networking as the best. We don't want candidates because it creates an interesting dynamic where they feel like they then have to impress those people or pitch them. And we want just kind of more peer networking group. All technical, ideally all founders, but we do some CTOs or engineering managers, for example. Yeah.
And then how well do you know people beforehand in order to do things like introduce them, seat them next to each other?
I think so. We started with people we know just to stress test it, but then over time we got more cool and colder leads. And at this point, it's mostly people I don't know, which is really cool. And I think it's more just setting the environment and the behavior beforehand. So now it's mostly people I don't know, which is amazing.
And then another piece of it is, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Do you have a couple top recommended restaurants in New York and SF that have been really good?
So I'll go through my huge list. So we have this gigantic list of all the restaurants we have here. I would say Thai Diner is really good. Ladong Vietnamese restaurant, Chopra in San Francisco. We are very into Asian food, into spicy food, into food that stands out. Family style food is really nice. Even family style food allows you to share with other people. It's all about creating that really hospitality.
Totally. I love that. Do you guide the conversation? Because that's something as a community manager and leader and event host, I've always thought about sometimes things seem too structured. Sometimes they're not structured enough. And so how do you thread that needle?
It's a mix. It's kind of unstructured, but what I do is I'm looking at this right now. I collect questions ahead of time and I kind of seed that, and I have kind of openers what's your most non-tech opinion, like things that are about technology to kind of open the conversation. But I try to sit people around each other where they would have things to talk about. I'm trying to find like what's a good like question like people ask like what are current trends you're seeing in funding across different sectors. Like I try to prompt and organize people around the questions and seed it in advance. But it's mostly, I would say, mostly unstructured in New York. People in New York can talk to other people about not their job. I think people in San Francisco can only talk about work in a very particular way. So it's much easier to do unstructured conversation in New York. In San Francisco, you have to kind of organize, structure topics, do things like that. So there's a little bit more preamble. But also, I think once you get people comfortable and they enjoy the food and they like the people, I think everyone kind of softens up. It's just more, New York gets a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're not doing a soft or hard sell during these,
Yeah.
do you feel like you have much customer education around like, hey, this is why you actually need this in addition to
I
whatever you're
don't
trying
try
to
to
know?
sell Scout and the dinner. I think that's the key
Yeah.
takeaway. It's like if people ask me questions about recruiting or sourcing, I will answer them. I'll share my anecdotes. I mostly ask questions about their business, how I can help them. You have to treat it as this is a fun dinner to meet other founders. I can help people if I can. If they want to follow up, they can, or I will follow up directly, but I don't try to do a hard sell. I think that's maybe something that might be unique to us, which is it's not like a sales dinner, it's a community dinner that I translate to sales, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense, right? It's a nuance, but it does matter, specifically because founders know other founders and they really crave that community.
And then for translating to sales after, what does that look like after? Like, how do you make this into a conversion?
So we do crazy processing on Clay where we looked at people's secondary connections and see if they could be a good fit. And I asked for sales intros through the people that came to the dinner, or I just
Mm,
directly follow up to see like, do you want to use it as direct sales? I think the indirect approach makes it a lot easier to follow up than kind of do a hard sell in the dinner. So it's a mix of intros and it's a mix of direct sales. And I just do it after the dinner. I'm very direct. I think that's it. It's like I don't hard sell in the dinner, but then I follow up very directly. Yeah. And it
okay.
works pretty well. Like it's mostly like one guest to one deal. So a 12-person dinner is 12 deals. So yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty efficient, transparently. Yeah, very
Like
efficient.
it's literally like you're just one to one almost
Yes.
everything through the
Yeah.
intros or direct.
Either through intros or direct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so this intros technique is really interesting because
Yes.
I would think that people would not be ready to introduce you to a customer unless they were already purchasing themselves.
It's more like people have issues with hiring. What's a resource I can recommend as a friend to do it? Yeah, it's not about customer referrals. It's like warm intros. So that's
Hmm.
why I'm saying it's more like networking and community more than it is sales. We
Hmm.
do get referrals to customers, obviously, but this has worked really well. And it's like 50% of the people do direct sales, 50% are warm intros. And I don't want to create a dinner where I'm just trying to like sell to every person. I optimize more for the flow and conversation of the group transparently, right? So yeah. So you want
Yeah,
a
and
mix. You
so
want people that are hiring, not hiring, like you don't want it to be so isolated. Yeah.
yeah, okay, so you'll include people who are not actively hiring, but you think they'll
No.
be a strong addition.
Or a possible customer later on. As long as they're in the ICP, as long as they're a founder, as long as they're technical, as long as they're early stage. Yeah.
And then also to create that sense of community, do you have any people come to multiple? Like, do
Yes.
people meet each other multiple times through something else that you do, or is it all dinners?
So it's mostly dinners in New York. People do repeat and come back. We alternate. It's a mix of friendlies and a mix of cold. I think I do like 4 people from Scatter repeats and then 8 new people. In San Francisco, we do different events. We do golf. We do founder fitness. We've learned in San Francisco, again, the right words here. We've learned in San Francisco that structured activities do better for socialization. So a physical activity or an event versus an open-ended dinner. There's just more of a culture of going out in New York City and group dinners and birthday dinners, so it's very easy to do it. And there's honestly more novelty for a tech founder dinner in New York versus SF, where every event is a tech event. So like to stand out,
Hmm.
you essentially have to be like, do I need to exercise? Cool, I'll do it through Scout, that kind of thing, right? So there's like a localization you have to do for each market that's so specific. And I never thought I would have to localize to San Francisco, but I did, or other way, right, to New York, right? Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to have like a language barrier
Yeah,
or
yeah,
a
yeah.
whole
It's like
different
a
country or
cultural,
time
it's like a
zone.
cultural barrier. Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's a lot
yeah.
of fun, and you learn a lot about the markets, and like, I don't know, it's been a lot of fun. The event marketing, like every time I always get a lot of juice out of it.
Totally. I know you have a cool approach to merch. So if you can share more about that, how do you think about merch maybe differently than the average startup?
So one, design merch that people actually like. Like these tote bags are killer. And essentially use the events and marketing to distribute them and create effectively like almost like fashion campaigns. So I ask people to take photos of themselves in the grocery store with these tote bags, right? And every time we leave them with like the restaurants, every time people are like, this is a way cooler piece of merch than I thought originally, and it looks better than a startup piece of merch, right? So use the events to distribute the merch and make merch that people are not going to throw away. Tote
Mm-hmm.
bags in New York and San Francisco kill because you can never have too many goddamn tote bags. Same with stickers, same with other smaller items like a hat, like things that are not going to get thrown away. I'm sure for you, you've had a ton of startups give you kind of merch and swag. Like how many of them have you actually kept like transparently, right? So it's like, what are things people are not going to throw away? So that was a big
Yep.
takeaway. We give away the tote bags in the dinners as well. We give them to the staff. The staff loves them. So like when we have leftovers, we give them to the host so like
Oh,
even the
that's cool. That's
restaurants
nice.
are doing marketing for us too, right? Which is really cool. You
That's
really just have to
awesome.
like startups don't have a lot of money. You have to maximize every bet, right? So what's the most you can get out of it? So we have a channel in our Slack, which is called like Scout Launch. And then every time someone sends us a photo of them using the merch, we essentially post it there and we have tons of photos, right? Like just people on Instagram, like a scout toad in the wild every time people are on vacation. So that adds to kind of the social media presence. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That's awesome. Yeah, totally. And I love
Yeah.
that your logo, like the store Camp, which is like for kids' toys and there's this cool
Yes.
experiential, but yeah, it looks like that. Like it
Does
looks
it
like
does it remind you of like Girl Scouts too, the green
yeah,
as well?
exactly. Like it looks like literal summer camp and
Yeah.
like, yeah, scouts,
Yeah.
Boy Scouts, Girl
Yeah.
Scouts. I
It's
love it.
like to scout or to be scouted, right? The name, the play on the name as well too. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like leaning into the different layers and interpretations
Yes.
of it.
Yes. 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 And people like when they like something, they like sharing it. So you have to give them multiple ways to share. It's not always an intro. It could just be a piece of merch or a photo or a referral or just saying the name. Like it should be fun to kind of share it. So just think about like how can people share your product, your mission, your startup? Is think about that.
Awesome. Okay, I want to talk through this funnel because you've described a lot of really interesting pieces about it, and I want to
Do it.
figure out kind of how they fit together. So, how do you how do you source the people to come to the dinners
Yeah.
and get in your pipeline? If they say no to a dinner, how are they otherwise in the pipeline? So let's talk about that like touch point.
So we seeded it with Merit, the users, like the initial set of people, our own network, and our cap table of angel investors. So we had an initial seed, and then we just kept asking to get referrals and recommend people into and do the secondary connection. So that kind of grows. We mostly then, every time you do a dinner, you kind of refresh the top of funnel because you're generating more intros and more asks through that clay workflow. So it's as long as you keep doing dinners, you keep adding to the top. In terms of not wanting to go to a dinner, we either invite them to the next one or give them content or just directly ask, do you want to do a sales call or do you want to learn more? So I've learned with marketing, it's about presenting a menu of things you can offer someone, and a dinner is like one of them versus like
Mm-hmm.
always being like, do you want to get on a sales call? Can I do discovery, right? You have to give them a bunch of things. Another piece of on the menu is like merch. Like, do you want a tote? Do you want a sticker, right? Like you have to give people multiple ways to interact. So just being honest about you can't always ask for the same thing over and over again. People will get one, annoyed, and two, you can't control timing. You can't control when they're interested in something.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, you'll send people merch first. That'll be like your
Yes.
first
Yes. Yeah.
touch
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also distributed and also stickers. And I think also we're doing hats now. And we wanted to do pens and notebooks, like water bottle. There's like it's all stuff about work. Like what are things you would bring to your startup office? And we want Scout to do the marketing for it.
Ooh, one thing I highly recommend at On Deck, these went like super viral. We had super high quality sports socks that were
Ooh.
embroidered with our logo all over
Ooh.
in a repeating
Socks.
pattern.
So socks
Yeah, but
works.
not normal socks, like really nice socks. And so
Okay.
everyone would be like, oh my God, these are the best socks. And like, they're socks. Like, still on the swag sites, it's like $3 versus $8. And
Yeah.
the $8 one
Okay.
is mind-blowingly good quality.
Okay. So you bring another point. The totes, picking a good supplier and not skimping on quality is huge too. And you're right, it totally does add up. But socks, I'm gonna write that down. That's never come
Yeah.
up in our research.
Pro tip for sure. And it really goes along with the scouting
Yes.
theme.
Yeah, scouting, and you can see it like in your ankle. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you could do that whole like hiking photo shoot. Yeah, and people are looking through binoculars and then they
Yeah,
like
just
see
like
engineers.
scoping. Yeah, yeah. Or binoculars.
Picturing,
Binoculars are a big one too.
yeah, picturing a
Yeah.
whole Sora 2 ad campaign where someone's like on a hike and then they
Yeah.
like go over a crest and then they find a bunch of like really good
They're like, oh,
technical
good founding
people.
engineers.
Yeah, founding engineers at the top of the mountain.
I love it. And just the way you're like thinking about it as an ad campaign, I think is the right way to like, what's the ad campaign? What's the meme you can create about this, right? I love that. This is good.
Yeah,
This
I
is good.
mean,
Yeah.
this is the era of the viral fancy launch videos. So you
My God,
gotta
yeah.
do
Yeah,
one of those.
yeah.
I think about that all the time. Okay, I want to hear more about this, about
Sure.
this clay process.
Yes.
You've mentioned it, but let's go into like, what do people build? We have all tried clay. We're like
Yeah.
trying to figure out what different things to use it for. What do you do?
We use clay to essentially qualify ICPs. So like, are they a good fit? Can they buy? Do they have JDs open? And then we use clay to then generate outbound referral requests. So the automation of like, hey, do you know these people? Cool. If so, here's a forwardable blurb customized to them. So it's about automating the whole flow. So it's very like you click one button, it just works. And I think clay really helps with qualifying people and not wasting time to see if they're real or if they can buy. That's really the biggest value. But you have to put in the ICP into clay. So that has to be pretty well baked. I mean, I think we've iterated a lot on like what is actually real. Like having a JD is not always the best signal, but example, the LinkedIn growing and headcount is a better signal. So you got to play around with that level of detail. And this is only something that sounds so simple and clean after I've done it like 50 or 60 times, right? So it's like about not wasting time in qualifying and making it very easy to do the ask. If you want them to forward it, like make it one click forward. Very, very simple. Like it's like an investor intro effectively, right? Yeah.
But the headcount thing's really interesting. Basically,
Yeah.
like people can just leave a JD up for a long time and never be
JDs,
filling it.
yeah, they're not, and they're really stale. They're old. Sometimes people lie, right? You just like, is the headcount growing? That means they're hiring, yeah, which is different.
Mhm. Are you doing other signals like funding rounds or
Fundraising rounds, but I think the headcount growing is usually the best signal, or how much the founder is posting on LinkedIn about hiring. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
Or on Twitter. Like if
Oh,
they're
that's
like
great.
desperate, they're like, hey, God, we need engineers like that. They're a great time. Yeah, great time.
So you're scraping their posts and finding
Yes,
like
yes,
frequency
yeah.
of the
Or
word
just
hiring.
look,
Oh,
or
that's
just
really cool.
looking at it or double checking it. Some of it's automated, some of it's manual, right? Like, but it's like, what's the signal that they're like urgent, they're desperate, it's top of mind, they're even willing to spend money right on it. Like those are the things you want to find out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing that I have often run into is like, yes, people love to offer help in startups, but how
Yeah.
much help is too much help to ask them? And so
It's a
like
good question.
someone goes to a dinner, has a great experience, how many referrals are you really realistically going to be able to ask them for?
I think if they like the dinner and they meet someone, they had a good time, and I can probably ask them for one or two referrals, but I don't tap it more than that. And if they say no, they say no. So I don't put like, I have a very direct ask, but I'm not super pushy, and I don't expect people to do a lot of referrals, like
Mhm.
one follow-up per dinner. But I do think it's important to give first before you ask. So like, I'm always down to be like, you want to jam about hiring? I can share, I can debug just for free. I'm always down to do that because one, people don't always take you up on it. And two, it creates a good impression that when they think about hiring, I'm top of mind for them the next time it happens. So you got to ask, but you can't ask more than once. Like you can kind of tap someone once in a year to do one thing, unless they're really good friends or like invested or referrals, right? But yeah, just be direct, but don't push. Like I think pushing pisses people off for the most part.
Okay, so you're using clay to qualify people you invite beforehand.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, if you do find 15 people in their network,
Yes.
you'll then hone in
It's a
on like the one or two
Good
best
question.
fit.
You
Yeah.
pick like the top three, like 5 to 7, and then I ask like, who are your favorite 3? So that it
Mhm.
makes it feel like they're solving a problem, like they look good to the people that they want to look good to. So it's about reducing and then letting them pick. That's like
Mhm.
to your point, a great point, a big detail about you want to feel like it's solving a problem for them. Like they want to help their founder friends, not they're helping Kirk or Scout, right? So
Yes.
it's like, oh, hiring, I remember the start. Like, let me introduce you to. Like, they want to look good. It's all about making other people look good in the context of these dinners, right?
Yeah, I love that. Like really reframe your product around the problem it's solving.
Yeah. Like
so
I'm gonna help.
fully
I'm
that
gonna help
they
your friend. Yeah, yeah, and then you can get
helping my
credit. You
friend
can
with
get credit for
hiring.
it. Yeah, you can get credit
Yeah,
for it. Yeah.
not like referring my friends to this other
Yes,
startup
yes,
product.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
It
Yeah,
doesn't feel as good.
yeah.
Okay, so this is
Everyone's
basically yeah.
everyone's the star of their own journey. Like as much as I think I'm the star, like everyone is in first person mode, right? Like,
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all like stuck in our own little heads all the time.
Totally.
Okay, so this is basically like a great like community and events led growth process,
Yes.
which I of course love. That's what
Yes.
I focus on and do too. Do you do anything once people are customers? You're bringing together all of these potential customers before they close, before they're in your network.
Okay, so great point. I
And what?
invite
Yeah,
existing customers to these dinners too. So we
great.
kind of loop it all back together and we ask them directly for referrals. But it's a community. It's a community of existing prospective friends. Like it doesn't have to be so hard. It's great to have existing customers. They can do some of the soft selling for you, right? And they also, like beyond hiring, they also want to meet founders too, like even pre the dinners. So I think the community is wide. It's existing, it's prospective, it's our own team. It's not always candidates, but keeping it the founder class. So we do include existing happy customers in these dinners because they can do a lot of the selling for you and that actually takes the load off. And they like when they're successful, they like, when you like a product, you tell other people because you're like, look at this cool product I found. So they do a lot of that work too, or they bring their friends. Like they recommend people to come as well too. So they grow their network as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Again, it's about like, they're helping their founder friends by going to these dinners too.
Yeah, yeah. They genuinely are. Like you can't just say that people are genuinely helping. That it has to be a
Yeah.
product that is genuinely helping solve a
Totally.
strong pain point, and hiring is a
Totally.
very strong pain point.
Strong pain point. The most urgent, the most painful, right? Like you can never spend too much money on it. It's always late. Like it's like the burning.
Yeah. Okay, so looking back on this, what do you think you might have done differently if you could go back in time? Like you've learned a lot through these processes and iterating, so what might have made it faster and better and more efficient?
I think we scaled slightly too early to San Francisco and we really should have milked like we didn't hit the local maximum of New York yet. So it's like classic startup, which is like if it's something's working, overdo it to the point that it stops working. Like
Mm-hmm.
and you need to break New York before you kind of scale up. So I think I wish we scaled up early in New York faster, like versus going wider. So go deeper into a market. That's like the big takeaway. And the other thing is just like I really discounted the emotional, tangible, like friendship aspect to these dinners. Like I started it being a lot more like educational and tactical and structured and like people just want a space to be themselves and to hang and to not feel like they're alone, especially founders. And just IRL community, making friends outside of work through work is huge. And I still think even on our 20th dinner, I still underestimate that. Every time I'm like, maybe this dinner won't be good. But then every time it's like, thank you so much, girl, for doing this
Mm-hmm.
dinner. Like I really needed so much. I was like, this like loneliness is like huge. And I really still underestimated how much loneliness and community and friendship is such a huge part of community, huge part of
Mm-hmm.
community. Yeah, it's like really core. And I don't see that changing as you get bigger. If anything, you kind of tune it more, right?
Yeah. And then I'm also curious, like a lot of people think that events aren't the most efficient strategy.
The trick is to not spend too much. We spend 100 to 150 per person. It's not about impressing the technical audience. It's about having a high quality event. And I think it's actually the other way. Like, I think if we did a really fancy dinner for CTOs, it might scare them away because I don't think they want like a sales dinner where you're spending money. So you have to like understand your ICP and your audience. And marketing is always cheaper than I think it's going to be. That's like my biggest takeaway. Like these dinners are very effective. Like our ACV is 25K. We're spending 1,500 for a dinner, right? And we generate multiple deals. That's a crazy high ROI, right? Spending more did not work to essentially more revenue. It's actually about finding the ICP or the quality or the taste or the curation around it. Like people come to the dinners like, I wanted to eat at that restaurant. Like it's even simpler than people think. It's like just picking good restaurants, which aren't fancy restaurants, or just good restaurants, right? So don't overspend based on your ICP. It might actually have a negative effect.
Totally. I love
Yeah.
that. The other thing that I think is really interesting looking back and like reflecting on the things that you've built and done, your previous startup, Merit, was more community driven. And
Yes,
yet this is the thing
yes.
that
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
was
yeah.
embedded into the
Yeah,
product. So
It's funny how you say that.
yeah, yeah. So what did you do for marketing for Merit and like how did that impact this event focused strategy for Scout?
I think our biggest miss on Merit is we didn't do enough IRL events. And I think that was the big difference between Scatter and Merit is so much of this marketing is IRL, in-person, small, curated. And transparently, I just think I just am better at marketing than I was because it was my second startup. So I just treated it like a real discipline and really designed marketing like how you would design a product. Like I think marketing and product are very similar in terms of the work and skill involved. And like a marketing campaign, they are products too. And you design them and you iterate and you can kind of optimize for kind of customer fit. But to treat marketing at the same level as product, That's like the biggest thing. Like it is as important as product is. Like the logo, the brand, the tote, the dinner, like every piece is a little product. It's just not software product, if that makes sense. So it's a philosophical thing, and it's just a do everything in person because people are starved for community thing too as well.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's increased post-COVID. Like it's not just a post-COVID thing. It's like it's even more relevant with return to work and like remote work. It's like people really, really, really want to spend time in person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely,
Yeah.
we do.
Underrated channel. It's very cheap. Underrated channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just to build on that, what did you do instead for Merit? Like what were the primary channels? Why do you look back and you're like, oh, I didn't treat it like a product?
Merit was more content, and content did not resonate as hard, whereas we did event marketing and referrals. And I think Scout is a paid product versus Merit was a free product. So I think it's slightly different, but we just had very different, like we did different channels and we just did better marketing. That's probably the biggest thing, but both were communities. I think maybe the booster was like we used Merit to bootstrap the community for Scout. So we weren't starting at zero. So it kind of did help us get to like the 500K a lot faster. So yeah, just different channels and a much more methodical approach to marketing and a bigger focus on spending time in person because Merit was all virtual, all video, right? So people were not meeting in person. Yeah.
Some of it was actual COVID limitations, but
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
once
Totally.
things-
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We didn't really want to harm anyone, but totally. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So my final closing question that I love
Yes.
to ask every guest is all about taste. We've talked so much about
Yes.
tactics, so what about taste? So what's like a time that your taste or intuition went against best practices or external data?
I want to go back to like the cost thing, which is like I think being quote unquote cheap was the right move for marketing, which is it actually attracted a better buyer and a more serious kind of person versus people who want to go to fancy dinners. And that's something that would not show up in the data. Like the best practice is to like lavish people with these dinners, right? And it just it does not work with founders, it does not work with CTOs. You scare them. Like they're not they're not into it. They don't want to drink, right? So it's like being cheap to actually be fancy, like if that makes sense. It's a very counterintuitive thing, but we actually stood out a lot with just a very simple detail like that. And to really focus on like the community and friendship and the like kind of almost antagonistic, but like VC dinner without the VC, like to almost counter position to be like, I know what those dinners are like. We're not that dinner.
Yeah,
Right. And I think everyone instantly gets it. You don't even need to design it. So like, I think kind of the taste is like counter positioning and very much like, I don't want to go to those dinners. So why would I make those? Right. Like, so yeah. So it's like the counter positioning and cheap to be fancy are two kind of counterintuitive things that work.
I love that. Both are about authenticity. Drop the
Yes.
mask.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't lie. I'm tired of fake. Don't fake it with me. Like, you don't have
Yeah.
to hard sell me. Like we're just buddies. We're just talking. Yeah.
It's not a sale. I don't have to wear a suit and a ball gown. I don't have to watch every word. Yeah, I can just connect with people.
Yes. Be honest. Be honest.
That's awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Kirk, for being here. Learned so much from you and really excited. Thanks again.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to our episode with Kirk Fernandes of Scout. I really love some of the things that we learned from this. So a couple of my top 3 takeaways are, first, in events, I think that hospitality clearly matters a lot more than fanciness. Rather than having like the nicest Michelin star restaurant and all of these like gorgeous flowers or something like that that makes the cost really add up, it's more important to curate the guest list really well and create this like cozy, authentic feeling where people can be themselves. They don't have to put on a show for anyone. Like you said, VC dinner without the VCs. The founders can drop the facade and be themselves. And they can use a family-style dinner, which is really communal and brings people together. The next thing that I really loved is how he talked about utilizing Clay as an amazing sourcing, screening, verification tool to figure out the right targets to invite to the events, and then also how to source some really interesting, strong referrals from those attendees afterwards to keep that like branching tree of network going. Clay is amazing to really take away a lot of the time and manual effort that would make things like prohibitively difficult beforehand. And then the last thing that I really liked was when he said that you basically are going to have to localize more than you expect, rather than thinking that localization is just about different countries, languages, time zones. It might just be about like the culture of 2 different cities in the same exact country. In New York City, everyone goes out to dinners all the time, versus in SF, it's not really like the thing to do. And so things like hiking or mini golf like worked a lot better. So loved all of those insights and more. Thanks again, Kirk, for joining us.
Taste and Tactics is available on every major podcast platform and at Taste and Tactics on LinkedIn, X, TikTok, and Instagram. Thank you to our producer, Simran Honda. See you next week.